Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the CodePrep Podcast, the podcast that shows you how to get into tech. Your hosts are Valarie Regas and Jennifer Bland. I would like to introduce you to my partner, Valarie Regas. So, Valarie, can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, I am a DevOps engineer here in Atlanta. While I have a really fun job title, I'm super new to technology, actually, just in the last couple of years. So obviously this is a topic near and dear to my heart, how to help people shift careers and start a new life in a great industry. A little bit more about how I got it on that path later. Go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about you, Jennifer.
Okay. My name is Jennifer Bland. I'm a software engineer. I mainly focus on front-end development. I'm a JavaScript developer. Currently, right now in my job, I do Vue development on the front end, for my company that I work for. And I've been in tech on and off now for over 10 years. But the main thing that we wanted to do with this podcast is to share with people how they can get into tech. And Valarie, one of the things that you mentioned is that you're new to tech. So can you tell the audience how you got into tech?
Absolutely. I was a stay-at-home mom. I have had an assortment of jobs since I was 14. Never a career, just things I did to pay the bills and be a responsible adult. Nothing about which I was ever passionate. And a few years ago, I knew for a fact I did not want to be a stay-at-home parent anymore. It just wasn't for me. And my husband is a technical architect, so I was fortunate to sort of see what he was doing for a living up close and personally on a daily basis in our home. And the thing that I think we don't tell people enough outside of development is that really all software development is solving logic problems. It's just problem solving. It's logical thinking, breaking huge problems into tiny components, solving them one at a time. And I've always been a fan of logic problems and figuring things out. Creative problem solving is my jam. So once I figured that out, it just made sense. Okay, great. So I signed up for the coding boot camp at Georgia Tech, which was a super fun, very intense and crazy making 6 months. I can't recommend it enough. Unfortunately, that's a web development boot camp. And about halfway through, I had someone tell me that there was such a thing in the world as DevOps, which is basically being the mom of the development team. It's deciding, who gets what resources and ordering code around and automating all the things and being super efficient. You're not exactly prepared for my role by a web development boot camp, so it's been an interesting journey getting to the job I have now and the skill set that I'm gaining now. But in the last year and a half, it's been an interesting ride. I do have to make sure our listeners know about you though, because you have gone from a completely different background to Google Developer Expert in a very, very short amount of time. That's right, guys. There's only like 60 in the nation, I believe.
That's correct. In web technology.
Yes. So as it turns out, I have sort of like, I'm starstruck a little bit every time we hang out because I'm with one of the 60 Google Developer Experts. So would you mind sharing how you went from, your previous field to where you are now?
Yes, I'd love to. I used to be, for over 10 years, I was a Lotus Notes developer. So those of you that have been in the industry long enough have probably heard of Lotus Notes. If you've heard of Lotus Notes, or if you've ever worked at a company that uses Lotus Notes, there's probably 100% chance that you're working at a company that doesn't use it today. And hence, that's the reason I got out of technology. And I was a product manager at Aaron's, the rent company that's headquartered out of Atlanta here. And I was a project manager in their training department, but on the side, I had created an internet marketing business. and my internet marketing business grew where it was making more money than I was making in my day job, working 40 hours a week. So I quit. I actually retired at the age of 51. And I was retired for about a year and a half, didn't work. And one day I walked into Barnes and Noble, and on the clearance rack, as you go in the door, they have these books that they just put on a table. Anything on the table is $1. And there was a book on JavaScript programming. And I picked it up, worked through it. And this was like in November of 2014. And I worked through it and started learning JavaScript, because Lotus Notes programming isn't JavaScript programming at all. And I all of a sudden realized how much of a passion I had for programming when I used to do it. And I was like, stay retired, go into programming. Stay retired, go into programming. Stay retired, programming worn out. I mean, I just enjoyed it so much. So I did the same thing that you did. The same route is that I did a 3-month coding boot camp. The boot camp was based out of California, but I did the online version, so I didn't have to go out to California. And after I graduated, I started working, and I've been in programming now for, in January, it will be like going on my 4th year that I've done this. So that's how I got in, and we both got into tech. So we've decided to join up together to create this podcast to be able to help others to follow in our footsteps and the footsteps of our listeners to get into tech. So, Valarie, what was your main reason of what you would like for us to accomplish with our podcast?
So, in my life in general, I've always been aware from a very young age that everything good in my life that I have, I did not earn or receive on my own. People have helped me. Just small example. I work somewhere that I adore. I love my role. I love my coworkers. I love everything about my job. I wouldn't have it except that a bunch of women who work in my office, who are now my coworkers, heard me speak at an event, talked to me afterwards, and they went to bat for me to get an interview. I have the job, and that's exciting, but in the back of my mind, I'm always thankful to the people who got me here, to the people who have held my hand along the way, helped me learn. And I feel like if you do not help others, you are not fully expressing gratitude. So I'm constantly driven by the urge to show my gratitude for everything good in my life by helping others. There are so many people in the world who are on the brink of living the life they want. They're on the brink of the career they want, the path they want to be on. They just don't know how to get that last, that last step. So if I can help anyone to get where they need to be, to just live a happy, contented, fulfilled life, I am there for that.
That's awesome, because we both have the same mission in that we want to be able to help others, because, like you said, I didn't get to where I am. I didn't become a Google developer expert on my own. Somebody helped me. So many people have helped me. So many organizations that we've been a part of that have given back to others and helped them. And that puts us in a unique position where we can take our voice with our podcast and be able to show others that there's more than just one way to get into tech. You don't have to be a programmer if you don't want to. We'll be talking to people that aren't programmers. We'll be talking to people that work in different areas, whether it be like DevOps like Valarie, or a traditional front-end programmer like me. We'll talk to graphics designers. We'll talk to people that are in management. So many different ways to get into tech. And that's what we want to share, with this podcast. And if you have a unique way that you got into tech, reach out to us. Below this video, we'll have a form that you can fill out if you would like to be a guest, and we can share your path and your journey, with others with our podcast. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's in DevOps, which is sort of emerging, I might be a little biased, but if you're listening and you have a role in technology that's niche, that not a lot of people might know exists, There could be someone out there thinking, I really hate front-end web development. What else is there? Please reach out. We would love to share your story with our listeners.
Perfect. And at the end of every one of our podcasts, we ask our guests for a recommendation. They can provide more than one, what they would recommend to our audience. So, Valarie, your turn. What is one thing, or more than one thing if you would like to recommend to our audience?
Professionally speaking and educationally speaking, the number one thing that I would recommend you acquire immediately are mentors. And, in the same way that you can't, expect one person to be all things, don't find one mentor. Find someone you respect in the realm of technology who maybe does the role you want to be in, who can talk to you about that aspect of your life. But seek out a career mentor, someone who has achieved the level of success you wish to achieve, regardless of their role. If you want to speak at technology events, seek out a speaking mentor. In general, find people who represent where you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and listen to the words they say, gain knowledge from them, and potentially give them a fresh perspective. This is not, one-sided benefit if done correctly. Mentors are the greatest gift you can give yourself, and mentorship is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone else. So that would be, professionally speaking, my thing I would recommend to our listeners. What about you? What's your recommendation?
Well, I think that's a great recommendation because, like they say, success leaves clues. If there's something you want to do, find somebody that's doing, ask them, and follow in their footsteps. So, my one recommendation, and it's going to be a shameless plug, is I'm going to plug our CodePrep.io website, which has our podcast. It also has our training courses. There are videos that we've made that will help you out in your journey to get into tech. And I encourage you to continue to listen to every episode of our podcast. And we will be dropping episodes every Monday of every week. And the reason why I encourage you to keep doing that is because this podcast provides a forum in which you can learn about how to get into tech, and you get the wealth of all the recommendations of these people that we're going to be talking to, and be able to use their recommendations to help you. So that's going to be my shameless plug. So.
No, absolutely, and that's actually great advice. I would also say, while we're encouraging people to reach out if they'd like to be guests, if there's a subject matter that a particular listener finds fascinating or wants to know more about or would like to have us dive into, recommend subjects, recommend roles, recommend any topic that you would like to hear about. We will find someone who's good at it and we will pick their brain for you. Let us do the legwork.
Excellent. Perfect. We'll wrap it up for our very first episode. Thank you for listening to us, and you will be able to hear our podcast every Monday of every week. We will have a new episode that we will drop that you can listen to. Thank you for listening.
Bye.